It was the kind of win that sets the tone for an entire season. A gritty, ugly, muddy, chaotic game. And the Philadelphia Eagles walked out of Lincoln Financial Field with the kind of win that championship teams find a way to get. On a night where the weather interrupted the rhythm, where emotions flared, and where mistakes piled up, the Eagles still managed to outlast the Dallas Cowboys by a score of 20-4 event. It wasn't pretty, but it was powerful. It was meaningful. It was a statement. Right from the opening moments, the atmosphere was electric. The stadium was packed, the second Super Bowl banner was unveiled, and of all people to witness it live, Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys were standing right there. It was like throwing salt into the wound, and Philly fans loved every second of it. But the real work had to be done on the field. And that's where this Eagles team showed exactly why they're being talked about as one of the most complete rosters in the league. Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni have now started 5 straight seasons with a win. That's no fluke. That's preparation, leadership, and a relentless drive to set the tone from week 1. In a game like this, where nothing came easy, those traits were on full display. The Eagles didn't just beat Dallas. They survived them. And they survived themselves, too. Over 100 yards in penalties, a locker room delay that killed momentum, an ejection of their best defensive player, and still, they found a way. Before the storm rolled in, literally, both offenses looked unstoppable. Points came fast, plays were explosive, and it felt like we were headed for a shootout. But then lightning struck, the game paused for over an hour, and when the teams returned, it was like hitting the reset button. Offenses sputtered. Timing was off. Energy dipped. But even in the mess of that second half, Jalen Hurts emerged as the difference maker. Hurts was surgical, efficient, in control. 19 completions on 23 attempts, 152 yards through the air, and 2 rushing touchdowns. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. What Hurts did with his legs, the way he extended plays, broke tackles, juked defenders out of their cleats, those were winning plays. On a night where so much was unpredictable, Hurts was steady, calm, cold-blooded. And let's talk about those touchdowns on the ground. These weren't just QB sneaks or designed runs. These were broken plays turned into gold. Hurts surveyed the field, saw nothing open, and then took matters into his own hands. He beat defenders to the pylon. He dragged bodies into the end zone. He showed exactly why he's not just a system quarterback or a guy who lives off the tush-push. He's a complete player, a dual-threat star who understands the game and knows when to take over. And speaking of the tush-push, the Eagles remain undefeated on that play. It's practically a cheat code. As long as they have Hurts under center and that offensive line up front, it's an automatic first down. But beyond the gimmicks, what really stood out in this game was Hurts' command of the offense. He wasn't just reacting. He was dictating the terms of engagement, making reads, going through progressions, protecting the football, taking only 1 sack all game. That's maturity. That's leadership. That's an MVP-caliber performance in a season opener. Now, not everything was smooth sailing. The Eagles had more than a few setbacks. Over 100 penalty yards is unacceptable. And losing Ben Van Sumeren to a possible torn ACL on the opening kickoff was a gut punch. Not just because of his role on special teams, but because of the energy he brings. That injury set a tone early, and the defense had to dig deep after that. Then there was the ejection of Jalen Carter, which could have cost them a game. Let's not sugarcoat it. What Carter did was flat-out idiotic. Yes, Dak Prescott may have spit first. Yes, there's video evidence of it. But retaliating by walking up and spitting on someone's chest? That's not just undisciplined, it's selfish. Carter didn't just hurt himself. He put his entire team in a compromised position. Without him on the field, the defense lost its anchor. And for a player with all-pro talent and contract eligibility coming soon, that kind of behavior raises serious concerns. Character matters. And when you're in line to become one of the highest-paid defenders in the league, teams want to know you can be trusted. Moments like this chip away at that trust. That being said, when Carter was on the field, he was as dominant as ever. He's still one of the best young defenders in the NFL. But that doesn't excuse what happened. He needs to mature, plain and simple. Because if he can keep his head on straight, the sky's the limit. But if he keeps letting emotions override his judgment, he'll become a liability, and the Eagles can't afford that. Back to the game itself, the Cowboys came to play. This wasn't a fluke win against a bad team. Dallas looked sharp. They had a real game plan. They exposed weaknesses, especially in the Eagles' secondary, and they nearly stole the game late. That's why this one means even more. It wasn't a blowout. It wasn't clean. It was a war, and Philly came out on top. Jalen Hurts' ability to control the tempo, make plays when they mattered most, and avoid costly turnovers was the separator. Meanwhile, Dak Prescott showed flashes but also gave the Eagles opportunities. He threw some questionable passes into coverage, and Philly's defense almost came away with more turnovers than they did. If not for a couple of near misses, this game could have tilted heavily in the Eagles' favor. The defensive backs still need work. Adoree Jackson got picked on all night. He looked lost out there. Poor coverage, missed tackles, costly penalties. It was hard to watch. And if Philly's serious about making another deep postseason run, they need to shore up that second corner spot opposite Quinyon Mitchell. Jackson is not the answer. He got cooked. He got targeted. He got exposed. On the flip side, some of the young defensive players were outstanding. Jair Campbell had a couple of moments that showed exactly why he's starting as a rookie. There was one play where he ran stride for stride with a tight end down the seam, timed his arm perfectly, and broke up the pass. That's big time. That's NFL-level athleticism and awareness. Andrew Mukuba was all over the field as well. Always around the ball. Always active. That's what you want from your safeties. And Byron Young made his presence felt too, especially on that forced fumble that could have flipped the game completely if not for Dak's last-ditch tackle. The Eagles also got strong performances from their big men. Jordan Davis was active in the middle, clogging up running lanes, shedding blocks, and making his presence felt. Nolan Smith brought energy, although he's got to clean up those personal fouls. But when you look at how many of these young players contributed, it's clear this defense is being built not just for now, but for the future. Offensively, there's still room to grow. The passing game wasn't as explosive as it could be. A.J. Brown got only one target. One. That's simply unacceptable for a player of his caliber. Whether it was Trayvon Diggs locking him down or play design failing to scheme him open, that needs to change. Saquon Barkley looked good, even in limited space. He ran hard, showed burst, and punched in a physical touchdown that reminded everyone of why he's so dangerous. But losing Landon Dickerson mid-game threw the offensive line into some chaos, and the running game struggled to find rhythm after that. Jake Elliott came through in the clutch with a monster 58-yard field goal. He was one of 7 on kicks over 50 yards last season, but when the team needed him most, he delivered. That kick kept the momentum alive. That was a game-saver. Special teams as a whole deserve high marks. They executed when it mattered, and that was a key edge over Dallas. This was the kind of win that doesn't just go into the standings as a 1-0. It says something deeper. It shows that even when conditions are tough, when mistakes happen, and when tempers flare, this team find a way. This is the identity of a championship squad. And with a rematch against the Kansas City Chiefs looming in Week 2, Philly just gave themselves a cushion. They start the year on the right foot. And more importantly, they start the year by taking down a hated division rival in front of a packed house, with Michael Jordan watching from the stands as a guest of Jalen Hurts, no less. As the dust settles from this roller coaster of a season opener, there's still so much to unpack from what was an emotional, gritty, and wildly unpredictable night of football in Philadelphia. The Eagles didn't just win, they survived a battlefield. From injuries to weather delays, from emotional outbursts to elite individual performances, this game had everything. And while the scoreboard shows a 4-point margin, the context reveals just how deep this one goes for the Eagles' identity this season. Let's circle back to the man of the hour, Jalen Hurts. There's a lot of talk about numbers, about touchdowns, about passer ratings and completion percentages, but what stood out most in this performance wasn't just the stat line. It was his poise. In a game where every possession felt like it might decide the outcome, Hurts never flinched. He didn't panic during the delay. He didn't get rattled by the chaos. He took what the defense gave him, waited for windows to open, and when nothing was there, he trusted himself to make a play. He looked like a quarterback who's been through fire before and now knows exactly how to handle the heat. And there was plenty of heat in this one. The Dallas Cowboys came to play. Say what you will about their track record over the last 3 decades, but on this night, they looked like a serious football team. They brought pressure. They played physical. They forced the Eagles into uncomfortable situations. They tested every weakness Philly had and exposed a few more we didn't know existed. That's why this one holds weight. It's not just about getting that first victory. It's about earning it against a legitimate opponent under less than ideal circumstances. And if the Eagles can win like that when they're not at their best, imagine what they'll look like when everything clicks. One of the biggest moments of the game came after the weather delay, when momentum had completely vanished and both teams looked like they were playing in quicksand. The Eagles were struggling to move the ball, and the Cowboys were just one big play away from flipping the script. That's when Hurts made one of the defining plays of the night, extending a broken play, dodging a linebacker in open space, and diving into the end zone for his second rushing touchdown. It wasn't just athleticism. It was willpower. He refused to be stopped. That was the type of moment that rallies a team, that reminds everyone who their leader is. But as much as Hurts carried this team, he wasn't alone. Saquon Barkley didn't have eye-popping numbers, but he ran like a man on a mission. Every yard he gained was a fight. Every time he got stuffed at the line, he bounced back with a cut, a burst, or a shoulder drop that made defenders pay. His 10-yard touchdown in the first half was vintage Barkley, shedding tackles, lowering his pads, pushing forward through contact. It wasn't flashy. It was violent. It was necessary. And it showed that Barkley still has that fire, still has that explosion, still has the ability to carry a team when it matters. On the defensive side, there was a mixed bag. When Jalen Carter was on the field, the Eagles had a clear advantage in the trenches. His strength, his quickness, his ability to collapse the pocket, it all sets the tone. But when he was ejected, that rhythm was broken. The Cowboys started finding more success up the middle. Prescott had a little more time, and it felt like the Eagles were suddenly missing that edge. It's not just that Carter is great. It's that he makes everyone else's job easier. His absence was noticeable, and it's the kind of reminder the coaching staff will point to when talking about discipline and accountability moving forward. Vic Fangio had his fingerprints all over this defensive performance. It wasn't perfect, far from it. But the structure, the adjustments, the personnel usage, it all showed signs of a defensive coordinator who knows how to put players in positions to succeed. Jair Campbell looked like a seasoned vet, not a rookie playing in his first regular season NFL game. He dropped into coverage, closed out on routes, and even delivered a crucial pass breakup in a moment where momentum was slipping. Andrew Mukuba was just as impactful, flying around the field, closing down lanes, being exactly where he needed to be. It wasn't just effort. It was instinct, discipline, and film study coming together at full speed. Jordan Davis also deserves a spotlight. The big man up front had a disruptive first half, occupying blockers and making it almost impossible for Dallas to establish a consistent run game. He's often overshadowed by flashier names, but he's the kind of player who sets the tone in ways that don't always show up on the stat sheet. His presence alone allows linebackers to roam more freely, and that has a trickle-down effect throughout the defense. Even with the poor play in the secondary, the Eagles still managed to hold on. Part of that was due to Dak Prescott making some questionable decisions. He floated a few dangerous passes that could have easily turned into interceptions, and he missed some reads under pressure. He did enough to keep Dallas in it, but not enough to take it over the top. And again, this comes back to the Eagles' defense. They didn't dominate, but they made just enough plays to seal the win. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The Philadelphia Eagles locker room is buzzing with excitement, and fans are barely containing their enthusiasm as whispers of a blockbuster edition circulate through the NFL world. Sources close to the team hint that Marcus Williams, the standout defensive star who has made waves in recent seasons, may be on the verge of donning the green and white of the Eagles. While nothing has been officially confirmed, the mere suggestion has sent social media into a frenzy, with supporters imagining the potential transformation of a team already hungry for championship glory. Williams, known for his sharp instincts, explosive plays, and leadership on and off the field, has been a name fans have long associated with elite defensive performance. Rumors suggest that Philadelphia has been quietly negotiating behind the scenes, crafting a deal that could finally bring the cornerback superstar to the city of brotherly love. If true, the Eagles would not only be bolstering their defense, but also sending a strong message to the rest of the league. This team is not content with mediocrity and is aggressively positioning itself as a contender. Eagle enthusiasts are already imagining the impact. Williams' arrival could redefine defensive schemes, create matchups nightmares for opposing quarterbacks, and elevate younger players in the squad through mentorship and example. Conversations in sports bars, online forums, and even morning radio shows are dominated by speculation. How will Williams fit into the roster? Who will make way for him? And, perhaps most tantalizingly, can this rumored acquisition be the final piece that pushes the Eagles over the championship threshold? That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.